So we're going to cover Chapter 1, Lesson 8, Making Direct Selections. So you'll need your Chapter 1, Lesson 8 file, Adobe Illustrator, of course, and then I'll be showing the steps from Cengage on my screen, but you can have that, your textbook open as well. All right, so the file you need is going to be in your course under Chapter 1. You scroll down in Chapter 1 to Lesson 8, Direct Selections. Click on the file. All right, so the first thing to notice here is that there is this thing in the way, and this is called the perspective grid. And shockingly, it's very easy to turn on accidentally, but yet kind of complicated to turn off. So a lot of times when students are going to turn on their grid, they accidentally will select perspective grid instead of show grid, which is down here. So that's one way that it gets turned on. Another way is that you have your free transform tool in your toolbar. Right below it is the perspective grid tool. So if this is, one second, if this is off and you are just trying to figure out what this is, or you accidentally clicked it, it would appear on, and yeah, so, and then you're in the dilemma again. So the easiest way to turn it off is by using your keyboard shortcuts, Shift Control I, or you can go under View and then Perspective Grid and then Hide Grid. So either of those ways will work. All right, so Lesson 8, Make Direct Selections. So here in the text, they're telling you all about the direct selection tool, telling you about anchor points and turning objects into guides, as well as stacking order, which is the hierarchy of objects. So whatever you draw that is the newest is going to be on top of whatever the last objects you've drawn. And then you can always rearrange these by going to Object, Arrange, and you can do things like bring them to front, send them to back, that sort of thing, just like you would in, Word or PowerPoint. Okay. So it says open your file, which is this one, and then click View on the menu to deactivate the Smart Guides feature. So you'll notice when I'm moving around my screen, I'm getting these little hot pink notes here. This is because my Smart Guides are on. And so when I move things around in Illustrator, it helps me to line things up and things like that. So they don't want us to have those on. So we're going to go ahead and go to View, Smart Guides, and click so that that's off. You can also do Control U on your keyboard. All right, so with your selection tool, which is this one, you're going to select the green polygon. And then from our view menu, we're going to make this into a guide. So View, Guides, Make Guides. And so now that polygon is converted into a guide shape. It's not something that you can select or put a fill on or anything like that. It is to use for things like tracing other shapes. So now we're going to go to the starburst, and we're also going to make that a guide. So you're going to select it. Again, go to View, Guides, Make Guide. All right, and then the next step is going to have us lock the guide so that as we're drawing on top of these guides, we're not moving them around. So we don't have to select anything for this. We'll just go to View, Guides, and then Lock Guides. Okay, so now we're going to move into the direct selection tool. So far, you have worked with the regular selection tool, which does things like what we call global manipulations to objects. So whenever you select an object with the regular selection tool, you're able to do things like move, you can resize it, you can rotate it, like free transform, that sort of thing. But when you're using the direct selection tool, which is right next to it, or keyboard shortcut A, you are now able to select these individual anchor points. And you'll know that they're selected because they'll be filled in where the other ones are white. You can also select multiple at a time by holding Shift. And then click off to deselect. All right, so it says with my direct selection tool, click the edge of the red square to see the 4 anchor points. Click and drag the click and drag the anchor points to the 4 corners of the guide to distort the square. So I'm going to select one at a time. I'm going to put this one here. And I'll select this one. And select this one. And then click in the blank space to deselect. All right, so moving to the star. Right now we have a lovely 5-point star, but if you notice, our guide has a lot more points. So when we start selecting our anchor points here, it's going to get kind of wonky if we try to just work with the 5 outside points that we have. So what we're going to do is add anchor points to the star before we start moving them around. So use the direct selection tool, select the center of the star, and then go to Object, Path, Add Anchor Points. So now when I use my direct selection tool to select the star, you can see there are a lot more anchor points, which is going to make this much easier. So move the top anchor point on the star to align with the top anchor point of the guide. And then working clockwise, move every other anchor point outward to align with the guide, creating a 10-point starburst. Select and move any of the inner anchor points to modify the starburst to your liking. Okay, so starting with this top one here, I'm going to pull this one up, and we'll use this one for the inside. Oops. All right. And so I'm going to choose my selection tool, click in the blank space to deselect. And so now you have created 2 guides and modified the anchor points, added anchor points to trace them. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is move around the stacking order of these objects. So with your selection tool, click on the red rectangle, click Object on the menu bar, point to Arrange, and click Send to Back. So click the red, Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And so it was in the front and it is now behind all of the other objects. Now select the yellow path, click Object on the menu bar, point to Arrange, and click Send Backward. And so that just sent back. Let's do that one more time so we can see where it was and where it went. So it was in front, and then it just went behind the purple line, but not the rest of the objects. Okay, so now select the blue oval and bring forward. So Object, Arrange, Bring Forward. All right, so it moved above the yellow, but stayed behind the purple. Okay, so now they're talking to you about your toolbar being in 2 columns here. Sometimes if we're working in different settings, or if you press this button, your toolbar will be in 1 column, and some folks like to work that way, and that's fine. But yeah, that's how you get it back to 2 columns. Okay, so now we're going to select the purple rectangle and click Draw Behind at the bottom of the toolbar. These are drawing modes down here. So right now, and most all of the time, you're going to stay in normal drawing modes, but you have the option to draw behind or draw inside, which is a lot like making a mask where you don't extend outside of the object. So we're going to choose Draw Behind. And then we're going to create a red circle. Okay, so I'm just going to use the color fill that's there right now. I'm going to hold Shift and Alt. Sorry, I don't know why that's still selected. Oops. Or was it supposed to be? You know what? I think it was supposed to be because I'm drawing behind it. So silly. Okay, sorry, I forgot. I had a moment. But I'm going to hold Shift and Alt, and I'm going to make a circle just like this. And then the circle is now selected. I'm going to use my eyedropper tool here, and I'm going to sample from that red. Right now, my stroke is activated. I need to make sure that my fill is activated. And so it has matched the attributes. All right, so now we're going to go back to draw normal. and go to the next exercise. Okay, so click the selection tool and overlap the large orange and blue squares so that they resemble the small orange and blue squares, and then deselect. All right, we're just going to move those inward like that. Then click the direct selection tool. Then select the top path segment of the orange square. All right, zoom in here. So if I click, oh, I just need to read. Okay, so it says it will look like the whole square is selected, but you will see white anchor points in the four corners. Now copy the path. So edit, copy. Select the intersecting path segment on the blue square. So that would be this one. And then click Edit, Paste in Front. All right. And so that is all you had to do for that one to get those to overlap. So this one is finished. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this helps.